In 2019, psychologist and relationship expert John Gottman in Psychology Today outlined what he considers to be the 4 characteristics that more often than not tend to spell trouble for serious relationships. These characteristics have the capability of leading to the end of a relationship, and so they have been dubbed the 4 horsemen of what is harming your relationship. Number 1. Criticism. Harmful criticism rests on absolutes and questions a person's entire character rather than a specific trait or behavior. Statements such as, "You're always late," or "You're so selfish and you never listen to me," are good examples of unhealthy criticism. Instead of acknowledging a specific concern, for example, "I feel frustrated when you show up late," an overly critical partner will put down their loved one in an ill-suited attempt to express their frustration. If criticisms continue unabated, the recipient may begin to feel hurt, rejected, or under attack. Unfortunately, this can pave way for the other horsemen to enter the relationship. 2. Contempt. Contempt is the darker side of criticism. Beyond merely putting a person down, the contemptuous partner assumes moral superiority over them. They feel better than their partner and attempt to make them feel worthless. Cruel and unloving sarcasm, ridicule, and mean-spirited language, both verbal and nonverbal, will be prevalent. Contempt doesn't only hurt a person emotionally. Research shows that couples that experience contempt are more likely to become ill. This is likely related to the fact that chronic stress, often brought by a toxic and unhealthy relationship, weakens the immune system. 3. Defensiveness. Being criticized again and again often causes a partner to feel and act defensively. He or she may come up with excuses and attempt to explain away what their partner is accusing them of, rather than assuming personal responsibility or trying to see things from their partner's perspective. While understandable, defensiveness isn't an effective conflict resolution strategy. Defensiveness can fuel feelings of contempt and resentment, and often leads to a back-and-forth blame game that is unproductive, destructive, and stressful. And 4. Stonewalling. The last of the 4 horsemen is essentially a diversion tactic. One or both partners, usually in response to overwhelming negativity caused by the other 3 horsemen, withdraws, shuts down, and stops interacting or communicating. Instead of confronting the issue or seeking help, a stonewalling person simply evades the situation altogether, often by walking away, tuning out, acting busy, or engaging in obsessive or repetitive behaviors. And when it comes to a song that opens the stable and reveals all 4 horsemen at the same time, none of them hit harder than the 1996 alternative hit by No Doubt. Don't speak, I know just what you said. Don't tell me 'cause it hurts. No. Hello to all you musical mimes, and welcome on back to Heard It in a Love Song, the show where we take a trip to the past to discover the history of a love song we all know and love. My name is Richard Hunt, and this week we are taking a look into the history of a song that would make Fleetwood Mac proud, Don't Speak by No Doubt.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gwen Stefani.
We start our story on October 3rd, 1969, in Fullerton, California, specifically at the St. Jude Medical Center. That is where and when we meet up with a Yamaha marketing executive, Dennis Stefani, and his dental assistant wife, Patty Flynn Stefani, as they welcome to the world Gwen Renee Stefani, little sister to Eric Stefani, and future older sister to siblings Jill and Todd. Gwen was named after a stewardess in the 1968 Arthur Haley novel Airport, which chronicles several stories taking place at an airport during a blizzard that leaves all flights grounded. Her middle name, Renee, comes from the Four Tops' 1968 version of the Left Bank's 1966 song, Walk Away Renee. Just walk away, Renee. You won't see me follow you back home. Dennis and Patty were high school sweethearts, having met and fallen in love at Anaheim High School. And by the time they made it to college, they started performing in a folk group called the Inner Tubes. The Inner Tubes were kind of an improv-based folk band that sometimes boasted numbers as high as 20 people. They would riff and just create fun music, mostly playing at the Monday Night Hootenanny at the famous Troubadour Club. They shared their love of music with their children, playing records of folk artists such as Bob Dylan and Emmylou Harris at home and taking the family to concerts. Like most kids, the Stefani siblings were great at finding ways to pass their days with activities they found entertaining. Eric enjoyed drawing and playing the piano, often convincing Gwen to sing with him, and they'd also hold puppet shows for their friends and family. Gwen and Jill played house, but they had a completely unique version. Speaking was not allowed. The girls sang all of their conversations, and their version became known as musical house. Patty taught Gwen to sew, and so she would often make her own clothes, accessories, and Halloween costumes. And at the age of 12 or 13, Gwen developed her first unique fashion hobby. She liked to shop at thrift stores, take the clothes home, and alter them to be her very own. Her bedroom turned into a seamstress's dream, and when asked about her passion for sewing, she told People magazine, "Everyone knew not to walk into my room without shoes on because of the pins." There would be no Gwen Stefani in No Doubt if it weren't for her brother Eric. She admired him and looked up to everything that he did, whether he was cartooning, playing piano, or just hanging out with friends. Gwen felt that he was always doing something fascinating. Gwen was the introvert yin to Eric's extrovert yang, so she was happy to let him try new things first and live vicariously through him. Gwen trusted her brother, and he had a way of convincing her that she could do things that she was afraid to try. The two were perfectly balanced.
This whole thing should be.
Everything Eric was into, I got into, she said in an interview with Rolling Stone. He's super creative, and he was this high school cartoonist, and he was in marching band, and he had all these really wild artist friends. I don't know if he was really cool or not, but he seemed cool to me. As she was growing up as a child, and even well into her teens, Gwen was a cinephile. Old school Hollywood became a fascination for her. She loved watching black and white movies starring Jean Harlow, Marilyn Monroe, and Sophia Loren. She loved the elegance and sophistication of the movie wardrobes from the 1930s and 40s, especially the long, flowing, figure-hung dresses and upswept hair. Her love of old Hollywood would later give her the inspiration for her high school prom dress, her take on a dress worn famously by Grace Kelly in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window. All four Stefani children attended Lowara High School in Anaheim. We previously spoke of Lowara in the Jeff Buckley episode, as both Tim and Jeff Buckley attended Lowara as well, and if you haven't watched that video, please do. It's my first video ever, and you can really see how far I've come. And a very wild fun fact here is that Jeff Buckley was a senior while Gwen was a freshman. Feeling she needed to lose weight, Gwen joined the swim team and swam well enough to earn the nickname Frog. She also joined the marching band as a piccolo player. Her cheerful and outgoing personality during high school also earned her the nickname Sunshine. Gwen's conservative upbringing influenced her teen years. She never had a boyfriend and did not have a large group of friends, and although she took school seriously, Gwen struggled with her grades and worried that she might not get into college. She would often daydream in class about getting married or draw pictures in her notebooks. Gwen enjoyed the dance music of the 1980s, but her favorite style of music was ska, a cross between reggae and punk, and both Gwen and Eric became hooked on ska when they discovered a song called Baggy Trousers by the British band Madness.
Baggy trousers, baggy trousers, baggy trousers.
Gwen became obsessed with ska, even solely dressing in black and white. Eric Stefani was a talented and passionate piano player, and so it wasn't long before he began experimenting with the ska style. Gwen recalled that she would often wake up in the morning to the sound of Eric coming up with new sounds. At this point, Gwen was singing strictly for fun, having absolutely no desire to sing in public. Eric, on the other hand, had aspirations of joining or starting a band, even experimenting with writing his own songs. He convinced Gwen to sing his first fully fledged song, Stickin' in the Hole, which is about a pencil sharpener. Eric's encouragement and her newfound confidence in her voice convinced her to take part in a high school talent show, and she sang a song called On My Radio by the ska band The Selector. As Gwen was finishing her sophomore year of high school in 1985, Eric graduated from Lowara and began forming a band with friend John Spence, whom he had met working at Dairy Queen. Both of them were huge into ska, funk, and punk music, and Eric, having been impressed by his sister's singing ability in the talent show, asked her to join his band as a backup singer. Gwen was reluctant to sing in the band, but agreed to try it, and the three considered calling their band Applecore, but eventually settled on No Doubt, which was one of John Spence's favorite phrases.
Ladies and gentlemen, No Doubt.
No Doubt had been born. The band heavily favored the ska sound, but made it a point to not copy any established ska outfit. They incorporated rock, reggae, punk, and any other styles that suited them. And during the summer of 1986, Eric and John recruited other musicians, including saxophone and trumpet players. Rounding out the band was Eric and Gwen Stefani, Tony and Alan Mead, Jerry McMahon, Kirk Hofstetter, Kevin Wells, Chris Webb, and John Spence. Gwen sang backup and shared vocals with John, and they played for the first time at a party on December 31st, 1986. Over the next few months, they played at more parties while looking for a chance to play at clubs or local concerts. The band's first major appearance came at Fender's Ballroom in Long Beach, California on March 14th, 1987. No Doubt was the second band in a lineup of 10 bands, with a group called the Untouchables as the headlining act. That night, a musician named Tony Canale was in the audience. Tony was drawn in by the sound and style of No Doubt, and while normally into music like Prince, he was captivated. and within a few weeks learned the band was looking for a new bass player, and so he auditioned for the band and was invited to join. Within a few months, he was recognized for his organizational talents as well, and became the band's unofficial manager. While Tony was settling into his dual roles with No Doubt, Gwen was finishing her senior year of high school. She graduated from Lowara High in the spring of 1987. With graduation came a secret that she kept solely to herself, at least for a while. She had developed a crush on Tony, but not wanting to scare him off, she played it cool, waiting for the right moment to reveal her feelings. So it's the summer of 1987, and after playing at a party, Gwen asked Tony to go for a walk. She kissed him, but Tony told Gwen it wouldn't work since they were in a band together. Gwen wouldn't take no for an answer at this point. She was already in love with him, and soon Tony admitted those feelings were mutual. They agreed to date, but swore to keep it a secret. However, as we will later see, relationships started in secret never last in the long run. Oh boy, Tony would say to Rolling Stone, it was a secret of immense proportions. Gwen's life was a whirlwind during the summer and fall of 1987. The band was working hard to write music, practice, and play at as many parties and venues that would have them. Gwen enrolled at California State University at Fullerton to study art, and on top of moonlighting as a vocalist in No Doubt, she worked a job at the makeup counter at the Anaheim Plaza Mall, continuing to see Tony in secret throughout. As the months passed, No Doubt received one of its biggest breaks. The band was invited to play at the Roxy, a famous club on Hollywood's Sunset Strip. Now, the Sunset Strip should be an episode in and of itself, and it will be when I get to the point that I could do 2 episodes a week. So subscribe. Gwen and the band knew that a performance at the Roxy could get them noticed by new fans, as well as record executives who often sought out new talent from their performances at the Roxy. It would be the chance of a lifetime. John Spence pushed the group to practice every day and to polish their act before the big show at the Roxy. The entire band felt the immense and undeniable pressure that came with playing a show that can make or break you. However, none felt the pressure more than John. On December 21st, 1987, the band learned that John Spence had gone to an Anaheim park and committed suicide. He left a 2-page letter explaining that he was unhappy. He felt terrible pressure about the band, but none of his friends expected that John was in such anguish, and all of them were devastated, and Eric in particular wished that he could have done something to save his friend. In his letter, John Spence explained how things had gotten hard for him. Quote, I think I felt too much pain, and all I see in my future is more. I'm sorry. Goodbye. I'm going to play a part of a demo they recorded with John in 1986, a song simply titled No Doubt. And it really shows just how fucking talented he was, and what a tremendous loss it was to lose such a talented young man at only 18 years old.
There's no doubt in my mind that you're like the other kind. You try, but you can't appear to be different. No doubt, no doubt.
Now at first, the band decided to quit. They had lost their lead singer and did not want to continue without their friend. Yet they knew that John would want them to keep playing. The band members pulled themselves together and put on their performance at the Roxy. And during the performance, they announced that it would be their last concert. However, as the days passed, they gradually realized that he would want them to continue playing music together, and so they decided to try to keep No Doubt alive, choosing Alan Mead to take over lead vocals. John's tragic death at a way too young age really reminded the band of the things they had to be thankful for. Inspired by this, Gwen and Tony decided to stop hiding their romance, and they announced it to the rest of the group that they were seeing each other. Eric and the others were worried that the relationship would harm the group, but eventually they all came to see that Gwen and Tony did in fact care very much about each other, and all of them accepted the romance. It just became another part of who No Doubt was. In early 1988, Jerry McMahon, the band's guitarist, bowed out, but it wouldn't take long to find a replacement, as No Doubt were starting to make a name for themselves, and a replacement would come in the form of Tom Dumont, who had left Rising, a heavy metal band of which he was a member along with his sister. And Jerry McMahon wasn't the only swap, as Adrian Young replaced Chris Webb as their drummer the following year. Alan Mead's tenure as the lead singer of No Doubt was short-lived, and after less than a year, he quit to take care of his pregnant girlfriend. Eric Stefani felt that Gwen was the best choice to step in as lead singer. The idea terrified Gwen, but because she trusted her brother, she agreed to try singing lead instead of background. During this time period, No Doubt played gigs at local colleges, Fender's Grand Ballroom, the Whiskey A Go-Go, the Roxy, and many of these shows with the Untouchables, Fishbone, and even a show at Cal State Long Beach with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Impressed by the presence of stage-diving fans at No Doubt's concerts and Gwen's onstage performance, A&R man Tony Ferguson signed the band to a multi-album deal with the newly created Interscope Records in 1990. The band spent less than $13,000 recording their debut, featuring both new songs and songs written as long ago as 1987. All of the band members continued going to school to finish their education while recording their debut album in a Los Angeles studio. To promote their album, in the summer of 1992, the band went on two-week tours of the western area of the United States, and in the fall they embarked on a 2.5-month national tour. But because the album underperformed commercially, Interscope refused to support the tour, leaving the band to finance it themselves. They toured in cargo vans, playing along bands such as Rage Against the Machine, Ugly Kid Joe, Sublime, Dancehall Crashers, 311, and Public Enemy. After the disappointing sales of No Doubt, Interscope declined to finance the release of a single from the record. Thus, the band self-financed the shooting of a video for the song Trapped in a Box, spending roughly $5,000 on it.
Trapped in a box, trapped in a box full of walls and sky.
The video got local airplay in Orange County, but despite the band's hopes, it was never aired on either MTV or VH1. Although it was played on Much Music in Canada, it failed to achieve any status on any chart. The album was a commercial failure, with only 30,000 copies sold. Notably, it was released at a time where grunge was a monster. The eponymous album was akin to putting a fire out with a squirt gun. In the words of a program director at K-Rock, a California radio station of which it was the band's biggest driving ambition to be played on, it would take an act of God for this band to get played on the radio. The lack of record company support frustrated the band. It led the band to self-produce their next album, the Beacon Street Collection, in their own studio in a garage on Beacon Avenue in Anaheim. This friction with Interscope caused them to abandon the slick pop sound desired by Interscope for a more punk style. And in 1995, upon the release of the album, it sold over 100,000 copies, over 3 times as many as No Doubt sold. In 1994, before recording of the album had even begun, No Doubt released 2 7-inch singles for their fans. The singles were both written by Eric Stefani. The first was Squeal, and the second single was Doghouse. It was also in 1994 that Gwen Stefani contributed guest vocals to Saw Red on Sublime's 1994 album Robin the Hood.
It makes no sense at all. That's alright.
It was at this moment in history that 2 completely separate but equally important and devastating events happened to the fault line lying dormant under the foundation of No Doubt. Eric Stefani was depressed. The semi-success of the Beacon Street Collection was not enough to help with that anguish. The grind of touring and the spotlight of rock stardom were not what he wanted. His dreams, he found out the hard way, were to be an animator, and with all of those things going against his future in No Doubt, Eric announced that he would be departing from the band that he helped form. Afterward, Gwen and Eric went through therapy together, at their parents' suggestion, to patch up their relationship. "I didn't want to lose my brother, you know," Gwen would say, "because everything that I am is because of him." He would go on to work for The Simpsons, so don't feel too bad for him, having left before No Doubt really blew up. Gwen was understandably heartbroken, but unfortunately for her, the buck didn't stop there. It wasn't long after Eric left that Tony told her they needed to talk, 4 words that only breed anxiety, and she had a right to be anxious, as the talk wasn't a good one. Tony felt the relationship had run its course, which was a crushing blow to Gwen, with her reflecting on the breakup to Elle magazine. "The first love you have is so huge, and it was like so overwhelming, and I remember defining myself by that. Basically, I was so inspired by this love, there was just nothing else. I wanted to get married, I wanted to have babies. It was such a short dream, you know what I mean? I didn't realize at the time that there was so much more out there." Their biggest worry was how to fall apart, but still keep the band together. "If we break up," Gwen remembers, "how can we be in a band together? I was like, if I even see a girl in front of you, I will kill myself. How can we hang out every day and I can't touch you?" And that's why we stayed together for a long time, because he was such a good friend to me that he could never hurt me, even though he was already killing me just by knowing that he didn't want to be with me. The breakup would lead to one of the most successful albums of not just the 90s, but of all time, Tragic Kingdom. To try to cope with the pain, Gwen Stefani started working more heavily on the tracks that eventually became the Tragic Kingdom album, which was released a year after their breakup. "Before, I was really passive. All I cared about was being in love with my boyfriend," she told The Guardian. "I didn't have any creative power. Nothing. I don't know that person anymore. But after the breakup, I just started writing all these songs, and suddenly I was like, oh, I think I'm really good at this. Tragic Kingdom, whose name comes from a nickname that Tom Dumont's 7th grade teacher had for Disneyland, was recorded at 11 different studios throughout Los Angeles: Santa Monica Sound, Rumbo Recorders, Mars, Studio 4, Grandmaster, Clear Lake Audio, Red Zone, North Vine, and the 3 most notable studios, Total Access Recording, which had clients like Black Flag, Dio, Pennywise, and Sublime, NRG, which had clients like Alicia Keys, Chris Cornell, Eve 6, and Kanye West.
Hey, good morning, Kanye.
And finally, Record Plant, which had clients like Jimi Hendrix, James Gang, Bruce Springsteen, Prince, and John Lennon.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Oddly enough, another album about a messy-ass breakup was recorded at Record Plant, Rumors, by Fleetwood Mac. Recording took place between March 1993 and October 1995, and during one of these recording sessions, the band was introduced to Paul Palmer, who had previously worked with Bush and was interested in working on No Doubt's new album. He wanted to release the album on his own label, Trauma Records, which was already associated with Interscope, and he succeeded in getting their contract. Trauma Records was also the label under which NBA superstar Shaquille O'Neal released his hip-hop albums. Yes, albums, plural. Shaq Diesel, Shaq Fu, The Return, You Can't Stop the Rain, and Respect. The album photography and portraits were taken by photographer Daniel Arsenault. Gwen is featured in the foreground, while the rest of the band members are standing in an orange grove in the background. And Gwen pushed for Eric to be included on the album cover, a source of tension for the band, reasoning that although he had left the band, he still had contributed substantially to the album itself. Eric is seen near the back of the picture looking away from the camera. The red dress Gwen wears on the cover was loaned to the Hard Rock Cafe and was later displayed at the Fullerton Museum Center in an exhibit titled The Orange Groove: Orange County's Rock and Roll History. The dress was appraised as high as $5,000 US and was stolen from the exhibit in January 2005. The album was produced by Matthew Wilder. And now let's take some time here to talk about Matthew Wilder, because holy shit, I was not expecting a lot of this. Clive Davis discovered Matthew Wilder in 1981 and signed him to Arista Records. By 1983, Matthew had proved that was a wise decision, as he scored a number 5 Billboard Top 100 hit with Break My Stride.
Nothing gonna break my stride. Nobody gonna slow me down. Oh no, I got to keep on moving.
And while he never had a successful follow-up, you most definitely know his works post Break My Stride, as he wrote the music for, not lyrics for, but music for,
Hey, think of instead a girl worth fighting for. Somehow I'll make a man out of you.
Ancestors, hear my plea. Help me not to make a fool of me. When will my reflection show?
To your heart, you must be true to your heart.
Hey now, this is what dreams are made of.
and he also played Ling in Mulan. Tragic Kingdom was released on October 10th, 1995. The first single released from Tragic Kingdom was Just a Girl.
I'm just a girl, a little lonely.
Just a Girl was the first song Stefani wrote without the assistance of her brother, and became No Doubt's first charting single in the United States, peaking at number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100. The second single was Spiderwebs,
Sorry, I'm not home right now. I'm walking in this battle. Wait for me, the message, and I'll call you back.
and it reached number 5 on the Billboard Modern Rock Tracks chart, and number 11 on the Billboard Top 40 Mainstream chart. Spiderwebs was not released as a commercial single in the United States, therefore making it ineligible to enter the Billboard Hot 100 chart at the time of its release. The third single was Don't Speak, but more on that later. The last single to chart was Sunday Morning.
You came in with the breeze on Sunday morning.
It peaked at number 35 on the Billboard Top 40 Mainstream chart. Sunday Morning is Tony Cannell's favorite song, which is odd, given that it is a scathing review of him, breaking him down to nothing more than a parasite. After entering the Billboard 200 at number 175 in January 1996, Tragic Kingdom eventually peaked at number 1 in December 1996, with 229,000 copies sold, and spending 9 non-consecutive weeks atop the chart. It was listed second on the 1997 Billboard 200 year-end chart, behind Spice Girls' Spice. At the 39th Annual Grammy Awards, No Doubt earned nominations for Best New Artist along with Garbage, Jewel, and the Tony Rich Project, all of which lost to LeAnn Rimes, and Best Rock Album, along with Broken Arrow by Neil Young with Crazy Horse, Crash by the Dave Matthews Band, and Road Tested by Bonnie Raitt, all of which lost to Sheryl Crow's eponymous second album. But despite not winning the Grammy, they did win the world over with a song of extremely devastating heartbreak.
I can see us dying, are we?
On one fateful day, Gwen walked into the living room and heard her brother playing a tender piano figure that stopped her immediately in her tracks. The pair started to write the song that would become Don't Speak. The original was being formed when Tony and Gwen were not broken up yet, and it was a poppier, upbeat love song, with Gwen gushing out the lyrics,
I can see it all in an eye blink. I know everything about how you are. I can understand exactly how you think. Between you and me, it's not very far. Side by side, you and I, with many, many years behind us, you let words pass us by. Because we're always together, and we will be forever such a special treasure. You and I don't speak, I know just what you're saying, so please stop explaining. It's nothing new that I've heard.
but when the relationship was nuked, the damage was felt, and so the lyrics demanded a review. Dumont's Spanish guitar solo was spliced together from 6 different studio takes, and I was thinking about how any true classical players would have hated the way I did it. He said, I played it with a pick. A huge no-no. Don't Speak reached number 1 on the Billboard's Hot 100 airplay chart, and set a record for maintaining that position for 15 non-consecutive weeks, although that record would be broken in 1998 by the Goo Goo Dolls single Iris, with 17 weeks at number 1.
And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand.
And again in 2020 by the Weeknd single Blinding Lights, with 20 weeks at number 1. And Don't Speak remains in 3rd place, with songs with the most weeks at number 1, non-consecutively, in the Hot 100 airplay. Don't Speak was nominated for Best Pop Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals at the 40th Grammy Awards. They were nominated along with Silver Springs by Fleetwood Mac, by Hanson, and Anybody Seen My Baby by the Rolling Stones, all of which lost out to Virtual Insanity by Jamiroquai. Don't Speak wouldn't win an award until the 1997 MTV Music Video Awards, when the video won Best Group Video.
And the winner is...
No doubt, Don't Speak.
Holy moly! Oh no. Is this real? Hello? 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 Sophie Muller is a genius, that's all I have to say. Where is she? Sophie, stand up. She's so embarrassed right now. Anyways, I want to thank Trauma. Oh my God, I'm nervous, quick!
We want to thank Trauma Records, Interscope Records, Sophie Muller, and the crew that made this video for us. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Dad, this is for you.
Now, the fact that Gwen Stefani was shot to stardom, eclipsing her bandmates, was not lost on the band. We kind of expected it, in a way, yet the whole thing caught us off guard, Tony Cannell explained to the Buffalo News in 1997. It had become a huge point of contention. Now, when the band decided to put together a music video, they knew that they wanted to touch on the breakup in some aspect, but decided as a group to use the video as therapy. They were nearly at the point of breaking the band up, especially when they were promised the November 1996 cover of Spin magazine, but when all was said and done, Gwen was the only one on the cover. So by the time it came to shoot the video, the concept, which at this point didn't need much acting, was the boys being upset by Gwen taking the spotlight. The video itself was directed by Sophie Muller, and if you are a fan of music, you may not know her name, but you certainly know her work, as she has directed just so many videos, including Don't Speak has been covered many times, including
With a feel that I'm losing my best friend. I can't believe this could be the end. It looks as though you're letting go, and if it's real, well, I don't want to know. Don't think I know just what you're saying, so please stop explaining. Don't tell me 'cause it hurts.
and Don't Speak comes in at 76 beats per minute. For a while now, I've been compiling a list of my top 100 favorite songs of all time. I have no earthly idea when it will be done, and it's of course always subject to change. But one thing remains clear to me: Don't Speak will always be in my top 5. Every moving part of Don't Speak works in its favor. The heartbreaking lyrics, the flamenco-type guitar, the cello, the way Gwen is clearly going through something, the way the whole band is going through it. And when reflecting upon the song to The Guardian, Tony Kanal recalled having to tour for 28 months, playing songs clearly about him night after night. We were going through the breakup, and in every interview we were talking about it. So we were opening this wound on an hourly basis. It was so brutal. I don't know how we made it through it. And I suppose every breakup, for the most part, is susceptible to those wounds being opened, especially if it was a long relationship. Your friends and your family care about why something they perceived as a good thing could crumble, sometimes seemingly out of nowhere. But heartache is like a volcano. It can lie dormant, festering under the surface, slowly biding its time until the love you once had erupts into a fury of sleepless nights, countless tears, and bouts of depression you could never really prepare yourself for. We don't always have the seismographic foresight to, as Gwen put it, see our relationship dying. But for better or for worse, we make it through to another day, acutely aware that heartbreak, no matter the size or severity, is never really the end. This week's Love Homework is a song that also is very aware of what's happening within the realm of their relationship. Prehistoric by Now Now. And that's it, the end of another love song history lesson. If you like what you learned and you'd like to continue learning, subscribe, hit the bell, drop a like, and join me next week for another look into a love song we all know and love. Until next time, remember that if it's real, then I don't want to know. And remember, you heard it in a love song.
What are you doing?
What? Oh, no doubt.